Hello, good-looking people, as well as, yes, that's right, the other group, the people who look good. My name is Mark Major, and this is the Action Figuratorium. You can see it there behind me. And I'm a real big toy collector and old-school marketing guy, and I do a lot of these analysis of Kickstarter campaigns for action figures all the time. I cover most of the stuff that comes out that's cool. And there seems to be a season in which these sort of are sprung, usually at the beginning of the year. Last year there was a whole bunch of Kickstarters for cool action figures that all kind of fell on top of each other. Same thing this year. We're going to be looking at yet another launch. This one is a campaign called Jitsu. They are some type of kung fu animals. I looked a little bit at it. Poked around, think it, might be a cool thing, but we're going to do the, kind of stock objective 3 points, 3 principles of best practice. But then I think this is a line that really, we should be able to talk about and say some kind of subjective things sort of off the cuff, and that's going to be a lot of fun. So you're going to want to strap on the leather, people, and hold on tight. So let's cut over to, what do I call this, the browser view. And we are on the Kickstarter. This campaign, Jitsu Fighters Action Figures Wave 1. This is by a company called Icon Heroes. Now, at first when I saw the name, I thought it was Articulated Icons, I believe it's called, which is that Fwoosh brand who makes sort of samurais and ninjas, which is kind of like this. I've bought a few of those and I've done some reviews. This is not them though. This is another company, and we should, before we dive in, we should always vet who it is who's making the toys. And this is their website. You can see their front and center putting up their campaign, but you can see all the different stuff they sell and different brands. And it seems to me that they have mouse pads and bobbleheads and buttons and pins, that sort of thing, for G.I. Joe, for Power Rangers, for My Little Pony, right, for Transformers. So this is a company that makes tchotchkes, kind of cool pop tchotchkes for G.I. Joe and Transformers. They must have some kind of sort of mini micro license with the Hasbro folk, and that's okay. But these guys are a genuine toy company, and now it looks like they're launching some action figures. So we should go check out the campaign. And as always, I like to start off with looking at their little chaser video. So I think we could roll that. It's only a minute long. Okay, rather exciting. No voiceover, but I think that's, and I don't really rate a lot of these videos and a lot of the marketing copy. And for the most part, all the stuff by today's standards looks plenty good. So yeah, no voiceover or anything like that, but yeah, cool, high energy, cool music, that kind of thing. So let's see exactly what it is in the campaign they are selling. There's these 4 guys. They're all kind of like matching. They got sort of the matching bodies, different heads. They're called the Claws, or that's their gang. There's this tiger guy. There is, and by the way, this is kind of a weird, you know, it looks, optically, it looks weird. I know that they're trying to show off the articulation, how you can pose these guys all sorts of different ways, which is cool, but it just visually kind of looks weird from that particular angle. There's a panther, right? And there's cheetah, and there's a jaguar. Okay, so that's our 4 cats. And you can, looks like they're offering them same heads but different colored outfits, like a white, a blue, a gray, a black. Oh, look, there's a stand. This looks a lot like the stands that Bandai sell. Maybe this is some of those stands just repackaged, but I got a 2-pack, meaning it's a box and it's got 2 stands in it, and this little arm thing, armature, it works pretty good, but eventually it breaks. Those things just don't stress very well, and they snap real easy, and you're left with just this kind of arm, which is okay. They should put in, like, you know, 4 sets of little pinchers with these things. And sneak peek, it looks like this is maybe some figures that are not going to unlock, but might be like a second wave, a second project down the road. Looks like bigger dudes, big gorillas, that kind of thing. Let's go to the rewards then, so you know, we can figure out exactly how much these things cost. So they're doing $30 a figure for a Jitsu, and you can get as many or as little as you want. They do have kind of a package deal where if you get 4 of them, 25 bucks each, 100 bucks total. I think that's a great carrot and stick. I'd like to see more of that. I'd like to see it where they kind of say, if you just want the one guy, it's going to be this much, but if you get a bunch of guys and then really squeeze it down, I think that would be the best way to go when you're trying to move a lot of action figures, because when you're making these orders with the factory, you got to buy a lot of figures, and so that means you need to sell a lot of these figures. And even if you don't make as much as some other folk, or as much as you could squeeze out of these, it's really more important to move as many as possible. The longer your inventory sits around, the less money it's worth, okay? Let's just put it that way. If you sell something 6 months after the factory delivers it, it's worth less money then than if you'd sold it the day of, even if you gave it a little bit of discount. And so I think a great carrot and a stick, like what they're doing, but even more extreme, I think for these Kickstarters would work even better. Okay, so now let's do the objective thing that I like to do. It's the one part where we actually just apply these rules. So the first rule is that there has to be 3-tier pricing. You got to have something cheap, something deluxe, something luxury. The second thing is the more things you have for sale, the wider variety, the more money you end up raising. And the last thing is simply about marketing. Make sure you put all of your important details and marketing stuff on the Kickstarter page. Don't expect people to go running around all over the internet trying to find out important details, etc., etc. All right, so we know how that works. And if we apply it to this, right, if these guys are 30 bucks, there's no deluxe figure, but there is kind of a, you know, I would say that they didn't do it this campaign, right? But if you go to the bottom here, there is this nod to these bigger guys, which would be a little bit more expensive. So if they had actually come out with a second mold, and they're looking for about $98,000, which gets you these days about 1 mold, plus some figures made, and then plus a little bit of money for yourself. So they'd have to raise about twice this much to get the second mold, but I think if they offered these guys, I think they would end up making a lot more money. So if you brought these guys into, say, a $45 deluxe figure, that would be the best way to go for this campaign. And then as a luxury one, if you came out with some sort of giant thing that was really expensive, because, you know, it's going to cost even more money to get the mold for it. Maybe it is only available as an unlock after you hit a certain amount of money. Maybe you can get it. But something giant like an elephant. And maybe the elephant is like a sumo wrestler or something like that. So that is one take on this, is that you could add a couple more tiers using what they've sort of got. But, you know, if your whole goal is to just simply get a buck made, right, that is a generic figure with a bunch of different heads, and this is how much it's going to cost, and if we just get this much money, we get it done and we're okay, then I think that this is a perfectly fine A-okay thing. So the two other things, the variety, it looks like 4 guys is a pretty good variety. I think that's a good basic starting point. And then as you go up with deluxe and luxury things, you have a little less, you know, so if they did have deluxe figures, I would only do 2. And if they did have a luxury figure, I would only do 1. And that's how I would do this. And, you know, if you're going to add more variety, add it to the bottom of the pile, not the top of the pile. More people can afford the bottom of the pile than the top. And then it looks like all their marketing stuff is all right here and good. I've sifted through this. There isn't anything I didn't understand. Now, there are a couple other things that I do mention in my original 101 Marketing Essentials of Kickstarters that you can do to beef up the sales, and that is to offer kind of low-level, nondescript things in, such as like hats and shirts and keychains and buttons and pins and coins and also coins in like special bags and stuff like that. Things are all cheap to make. You can get right away. You can send them out right away so that people think you're, you know, when a year goes by and people think like they forgot about the campaign and you're not doing anything, you can send them out some stuff, some tchotchkes, that kind of thing. Those are always good. And it's funny because these guys actually have another business, a core business, selling tchotchkes. And I'm a little bit surprised that they don't have some of that for their own brand for sale in this campaign. Gotta say, I'm a little bit stunned by this, okay? So that is my opinion, the overall kind of objective marketing analysis of this. They're really looking really good. The marketing looks really good. The pricing looks pretty good. I just think that if they popped in a deluxe and a luxury thing, this would be on the scorecard. This would have an A+ as far as like marketing guys' classroom goes. Okay, now let's talk subjectiveness and Mark's opinions and Mark's feeling on these particular figures and what's going on in the toy space right now. There are a lot of guys doing this kind of stuff. And in fact, we should probably go back to something that a lot of people have never heard of before. It's this line of toys that Stan Winston did called Realm of the Claw. Now, the first series of Realm of the Claw guys are immovable figurines. They just stand there and they're dumb. Then he did so if you look on eBay and you find some cheap and they come as figurines, I'm sorry, those are not the ones to get. Then they did some that actually have articulation. Now, the articulation is not particularly good on these figures because of the way the bodies are, but let's see what they look like at an eBay auction here, right? You can see how he did his sort of cat people, and they look kind of, you know, I mean, they got the heads, but the bodies also kind of look like cats. They've got that, you know, they've got haunches, they've got that sort of cat musculature, they got these weird kind of paws, right? And the Jitsu guys are just generic human bodies with these animal heads on it, and you could just take the heads off and you could put anything else on, animal or not animal. They could have just sold us bodies and separate head packs. You could just buy one body and you could get a pack of 4 heads. And if like you want to roll a Panther Man one day, Panther Man's out there and he's training people. Or if you decide Tiger Guy is coming out, you know, it's like have one for every year of the, you know, the Chinese New Year's, that kind of thing, right? Do different packs of creatures. You might, the Jungle Pack 1 is all cats, Jungle Pack 2 is maybe all like birds, like you get things like toucans and stuff like that. It's like a toucan head, and instead of the tail, there's like a feather, and instead of like the claws, you get talons, and that kind of thing. There's a lot of ways you could go with a generic buck and a head, but there's nothing about these guys they did other than the heads that to me says cats, like especially when you look at the Stan Winston stuff, right? And he really went for that kind of primitive jungle ornamentation and stuff like that. And I realize the Jitsu guys are not doing that. They're doing just like kung fu people, right? Martial arts guys on the mats training, but with animal heads, right? You know, it's a little different thing. But I'm just saying, like, there's so much out there, right? Like, for example, this Kickstarter is going on right now. It's got 35 days to go, right? And it's a well-known brand, Animal Warriors of the Kingdom. And they've already funded, and they do same scale, but they do a similar kind of thing where they do kind of animals as humans, human animals, and they go the extra distance to make them look like the bodies like animals, like the fox body looks like you'd expect a fox body to have, that kind of thing. And then there's, of course, this Kickstarter that just closed, Combat Creatures, which is, the gag on this was that he took those little battle beasts from the 80s and sort of did what if they were 6-inch ultra future guys, that kind of thing. But it's the same sort of thing. We just like, you've got like kind of a human body, right? Humanoid body, and then you put an animal head, and then you add a little bit of like, oh, he's a bear, so he's got claws, that kind of thing. The very bare minimum. And again, not ragging all this stuff, but they're all tapping into sort of the same thing. And it's not that you need to be different from the other guy, because clearly the Jitsu thing would qualify as that, since they're in these kind of, I forget the name for those, these karate outfits, like a gi or a ji or something like that. It's like there's a lot of competition, right? And everyone, believe it or not, in the toy space is looking for market share. And you need to be really, right now, to get people's attention, to get people to spend money by, you really need to be, in my opinion, I feel you need to be out there. You need to really push the limits on your figures, and not necessarily like the articulation, but like the overall design. And what I describe when I do my reviews is the fun factor. Do you pick it up and do you just have fun with it? Is it a really fun character that you can't stop messing with and playing with and putting in poses and stuff like that, and just hangs out on your desk the whole time? Does it have fun factor? Does it grab your imagination? Or did you just buy it because, you're like, oh, I collect figures and I like Lion Men, which I do. And both those, I collect figures and I do like Lion Men, and I do collect that kind of stuff. So maybe I should get one. And like, yeah, okay, that's plenty of reason. But I feel like if you're going to have a really successful campaign, you need to have something that totally grabs people. And I realize that these have been sculpted by the Four Horsemen, which are the guys that make Mythic Legions, which is an action figure line I absolutely love. I cover them nonstop. I collect them. But having these guys do this campaign is like having Michael Jordan come in and just run the Zamboni. Like they're overqualified. They easily could have gotten some independent 3D sculptor out there who's got plenty of figures to his name and hired to do something like this. That's my initial take, is like there's nothing particularly, not bad, but unique. It doesn't have that unique thing where I can't tell it apart from anything else, that when I see it I know exactly, oh, it's that brand, or oh, it's those guys. Like, even if I didn't know that this is part of Jitsu and someone had one and I looked at it and I'd just be like, what, And it also kind of falls under the sort of the Ninja Turtle thing where you just take one guy and you clone him 4 times and just like, and it's a pack, and so you're guaranteed baked in sales, and like that's kind of cool, but it also dilutes a sort of pureness to something. So what I think this could be is a great jumping off point for this company, or for anyone who wants to do this, is when I look at the generic body that comes with this thing, I kind of think of like the company Marauder Gunrunners, and let's go check their site. So here we are. And they do these 1/18th scale guys, these 3.75 guys, and you can go there and you can just shop parts and parts and parts and accessories and parts. You can get bodies, you can get heads, you can get torsos. So here's like a page of like male torsos, and you can see like the different colored pants and shirts. It comes with the different kind of skin colors. And you might go, yeah, but they look kind of weak. Well, for one, they're only $12. They're just like a building kit with which you make things, upon. And also, they're actually at this point, they're really good. I went so far as to buy 3 figures that I did a piece on called Build a Team Soviet Sniper Girls, which I ordered 3 figures and a bunch of accessories, and I went to see if I could actually make some kind of a team of World War II women snipers for the Soviets, and the bodies are fantastic. The heads are fantastic. The quality of all the little accessories, the hats, whatever they look like in the catalog, in real life, they're better quality than what it looks like. It's hard to describe. And that stuff is really inexpensive and easy to get. And I could see something like this being the start of that, where our first offering is this generic body, and you can buy little kits for the hands and the heads, and they could be creatures, or they could be dudes, or they could be whatever they want. But I think as far as just like, hey, Mark, we want you to buy 4 cat people, I'm not so sure. I'm not so sure that this is going to scratch the itch that people want right now, because if you look at, again, the combat creatures, AWOC, if you look at some of the figures that the Mythic Legions themselves do, which they have a cat head that they use all the time. And they did a head pack where they put in a panther head. It's fantastic, right? And this stuff just seems, with those bodies, without having to be more like the Stan Winston. Again, let's go back, see what Mark's saying. They don't have enough catness to them, for one. Also, I feel that they don't have enough of the martial arts, kung fu, karate thing. There's not enough of this trope that you would call the Oriental, right? There's not like the silver Fu Manchu mustache on a guy. You know, someone doesn't have the bun in the back of the head with the 2 chopsticks in it, and things like that. I didn't see any. I don't know if Jiu-Jitsu uses weapons, but I don't, like everything on this planet usually comes with weapons. You could put appropriate kind of cool, Ninja Turtles did this. One guy gets a staff, one guy gets nunchucks, one guy gets, stars. I think you can kind of milk this sort of flavor for quite a bit. But this is my basic personal take on it. Is the flavor is just not flavorful enough. It's a little bland. It's a little ordinary. It's a little bit of the same. It's not quite the uniqueness that I think a lot of people are looking for. 30 days to go to hit $98,000. I'm going to predict, and if I'm wrong, come back in the comments and blast me. YouTube loves comments, by the way, so you don't even blast me early. There's no reason to wait. Blast now, okay? I'm saying don't come back. Put your blast in early. I'm going to say that this thing gets up to about between $55,000 and $65,000, and I think it's going to stop there because I don't think it scratches enough itches. But I do think a lot of people would be really interested in buying just cool jungle heads that fit onto stock action figures. I think that would be a big move forward. Anyways, how wrong could I be? Who knows? With that, I want to thank everybody who let's switch back here. Yeah, I want to thank everybody who made it this far into the video. I know these are tough to get through. I have a hard time getting through these. So with that, just remember, stay sharp.